In this video, we'll be going over example 7 and example 8 on one-step equations involving division. First, let's answer what side is the variable on. The variable d is on the right side of the equation, on the right side of the equal sign. What is the problem number? The 7 and 1200ths, or you could say 7 decimal 12 or 7.12 is the number keeping d from being alone. We need to get rid of that 7.12. The original operation is that fraction bar, so that means division. Fraction bar means division, and the inverse of division is multiplication. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply both sides by a number. Now we're going to multiply by 4 or by 7.12. I hope you're thinking 7.12 because 7.12 is the problem number. It's the number that we're trying to get rid of. So that's what you want to multiply by. On the right side, we have to write this as a fraction since we're multiplying it by a fraction. And on the left side, we're going to just multiply it by a regular 7.12. From here, I'm going to multiply across. That's how you multiply fractions. You multiply the numerator times the numerator. 7.12 multiplied by d is 7.12d. And 7.12 times 1 is 7.12. And then over here, I need to multiply 7.12 by 4. When you're multiplying, you don't have to line up the decimals. In fact, you could totally ignore the decimals and then deal with the decimals at the end. 2 times 4 is 8. 4 times 1 is 4. 7 times 4 is 28. If we got rid of the decimal, we would get the same thing. And then at the end, you have to pay attention to the decimal. So I'm going to grab a different color, and you just count the number of decimal places in the numbers. So there's 1, 2 decimal places in this number. So I start over here on the right side, and I move the decimal once, twice to the left, and I place the decimal here between the 8 and the 4. So the answer is 28 decimal 48, or 4800ths, you could say. And over here, anything over itself is equal to 1. So 7.12 divided by 7.12 is equal to 1. So we're left with 1d is equal to this number. So d is equal to the 28.48. And then I'm just going to put d on the left side now at the end. It's a good habit to get into. It's going to help us when we solve inequalities. So there's our final answer for example 7. We're going to move on to example 8 now. All right, example 8. 9.1 is equal to d divided by 5.2. I already filled in some answers. What side is the variable on? D is on the right side of the equal sign. What's the problem number? 5.2. That's what we're trying to get rid of. The original operation is division. We know that because of this fraction bar, and a fraction bar means division. The inverse or opposite of division is multiplication, so we know we're going to multiply both sides by a number. You're going to want to multiply both sides by the number you're trying to get rid of. So we're going to multiply both sides by 5.2. On the right side, I need to write 5.2 as a fraction since I'm multiplying it by a fraction. On the left side, I can just record 5.2. I'm going to use parentheses so that we don't confuse the multiplication sign with the decimal. And then what we're going to do is we're going to multiply across. 5.2 multiplied by d is 5.2d. When you're multiplying fractions, you multiply the numerators together, and then you multiply the denominators. 5.2 times 1 is 5.2. And then we also need to multiply these two numbers. So I started to write some of this down on the right. 9.1 times 5.2. Remember that I could even just multiply 91 times 52 and ignore the decimals because we don't need to worry about the decimals until we've multiplied. So 1 times 2 gives me 2. 9 times 2 is 18. I need to put in a 0 to hold the place. So I've already multiplied by 2. Now I'm going to multiply by 5. So I put the 0 to hold the place, then 1 times 5 is 5. 9 times 5 is 45. And then I add these two together. So I get 2 here, 13 here, so I carry the 1. 5 plus 2 more gives me 7. And then 4. And then I count the decimal places in those two numbers. So there was the tenths place, that's 1 place, and there's the tenths place in this problem, so that's 2 decimal places. So I need to move the decimal over twice, and it ends up between the 7 and the 3. So the answer is 47 decimal 32, or you could say 47 and 32 hundredths. 5.2 divided by 5.2 is 1, so we're left with 1d, which is the same thing as d. I bring down the equal sign, and it looks like our final answer is 47 decimal 32. And this can be rewritten as d equals 47 and 32 hundredths.